what's new?
People are looking for validations for actually not doing it.
None of that matters.
There's nothing new about this.
And that's a big problem.
They're buying what you believe.
And it doesn't work that way anymore.
And I think part of that is freaking laziness.
It's not too late.
You can have your own voice through your own channel.
Less of new and more retooling.
It's necessary.
Even if it is, that doesn't mean you shouldn't start now.
We have to use our brain cells.
What you think might work might not.
Or this is the dirty secret right here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to VMN Business Talk. Today, we are going to talk about the new rules of visibility, how to stand out in a noisy, uncertain world. If you'd like to catch up on past episodes covering business and marketing, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and YouTube. We truly appreciate your follows, comments, and likes. They help us bring even more valuable conversations your way. My name is Diana Spinka. I'm the producer of the show. And as always, I'm here with our host, networking and marketing expert, Victor Nichols. Hello, Victor.
Hello, I'm so excited.
We're happy to welcome today's powerhouse guests who know the game inside and out. Josh Carey, media strategist, podcast host, the founder of Carey Studios, helping leaders amplify their voices through podcasts and radio. Host of the Hidden Entrepreneur Show on iHeartRadio, 300 plus episodes. Hello, Josh. Thank you for being here with us.
Oh, I love being here. Every chance I get is a good chance.
And you're such an underachiever.
And our second guest, Braxton Wood, multi-time founder, executive coach, and creator of the Operators Advantage, a proven system for scaling smarter. He's driven 250 million plus online views. That's a lot of views. And coached VIPs from Variety Magazine, Reddit, Coinbase, and more. Featured with Amex, The Daily Dot, and the CEO Blog Nation. Hello, Braxton.
Hello. Thank you.
Hey, brother.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, guys, thank you a lot for coming on the show today. And my first question for you is, how have you seen the media change over the past few years? Because we see that every year we see people saying like, oh, this is the time to start your social media, or this is the time for you to start your podcast. And we see it every year, and every year, especially at the end of the year, they say like, this is your last chance, do not wait any longer. So what is changing in the media world? Josh, go ahead.
Well, I think it's interesting that the title of this is New Rules of Visibility. And I was going to comment on that because, to your point, there's nothing new about this. What we do is still identical to tried and true strategies in the marketing world that not only through podcasting have been around for years and years, but even before that, even when you go to other mediums, it's the same technique, it's the same strategy, just applied in a different format. And that's what I like to do. Help the leader, help the executive understand how to use what they're already doing in other formats, bring it over to the mic, either as a host or a guest on the radio or as on-demand video, what have you, for the benefit of your business and marketing. So I don't think much has changed in the foundation, in the fundamental, in what the people connect with. We still need to connect, not logically, not with features, but we need to connect emotionally. The biggest thing that has changed, which I work diligently with my clients on, is that you need to know how to tell your story. Not the business or company's story. You need to know not only how to communicate your story, but even before that, you have to know what it is. Because what it comes down to is people aren't buying what you build. They're buying what you believe. So what I like to do is create your core message, which comes from your foundational belief system as a person, which creates your personal brand, and we apply it to the mic.
I love it.
Yeah, Braxton.
I'm sitting here thinking, if this is the new rules of visibility, what you asked, what else has changed? What has changed over the years? And I think the biggest thing that's changing is slowly the market's starting to realize that they have a voice in the first place, right? So like I always go back to thinking about, like, if you go back 20, 25 years, if you wanted to have a channel, quote unquote channel, then you had to do it like you had to go out and get registered and get a cable channel or something like that and spend a lot of money, or some network had to think that you were interesting and give you a shot. And it doesn't work that way anymore. And people are just now starting to adopt that idea that, like, you want a channel, you can go out and start one. Growing up, I only had 5 channels, like channel 30, channel 18, channel 12, channel 8 in my area. And now there's not 5 channels, there's like 5 billion channels because of YouTube, because of Instagram, because of all these social media platforms. So what's new is that we need to be able to learn as creatives, as business owners, to embrace the idea that you can have your own voice through your own channel. And then just learning how to leverage that and exploit that for your voice to get out there, for people to understand who you are, to get more attention. And the better that we do that, I think the more successful we'll be.
And it doesn't cost a lot, right?
Not at all.
Oh.
Yep. Not at all.
I think the cost is really in the time and the effort in putting into actually doing it than necessarily the monetary cost. Obviously, that can be associated to cost. Time is money, but it's what we would call soft costs as opposed to hard costs.
Yeah.
Out of the gate, you put in the time, and you can get started. You can do all the work for little to no financial layout.
Right. And do you think it's late to start now? Or is it like necessary for people? Because, somebody said, who was it? Vic, you told me this probably, that if you're not online, you don't exist. That was the quote. I think.
Yeah, there was somebody who had mentioned that to me. Actually, I think I read it somewhere. I'm a big Wall Street Journal guy, so I think I might have read it in the Wall Street Journal at some point.
Yeah. Does everybody have to have their social media, their podcast?
Well, I think that it's not too late. The way I frame it is, what I help you do is extend your marketing efforts to this medium, help you become effective on the mic through podcasting or radio broadcast. It's not too late, right? I think it's necessary. You're certainly having marketing conversations internally. This is just an extension of that. How do we take what you're already doing and reframe it to this kind of medium? It's not too late at all. It's necessary. And I hear it all the time. Is it too late to start a podcast or to get on podcast? Of course not.
Do you think, Josh, I want to ask you a question, and you do, Braxton. Do you think you hear that sometimes because people are looking for validations for actually not doing it, even though that they know they should, but they're like, no, if somebody says it's just not the right time, then I don't have to worry about it. You know what I mean? And I think part of that is freaking laziness. That's, my opinion.
You're speaking to most people. I'm glad you said, does it come down to people trying to excuse it? Well, of course it is, right? For all kinds of reasons. What do you think, Braxton? You hear that?
The best time to plant a tree was 100 years ago. The next best time was today, right? And like that's what always goes through my brain is like, is it too late? Maybe, but that doesn't, even if it is, that doesn't mean you shouldn't start now. Because what I always think about is where do we get our information now? Where do we get our news, our entertainment, our anything? I haven't flipped on like a traditional cheap TV channel in like 15 years, probably longer. Like that's where I get all my news is off Facebook or TikTok or Instagram.
And I think part of that reason, Braxton, too, just as a caveat to that, is the fact that you sometimes don't feel like you're getting the truth, right?
True. Mm-hmm. Yep.
You don't feel like you're getting the truth. So you're like, you know what? I'm going to curate my own channels. I'm going to curate my own sources and find out and make my determination on what I believe is true and what is not as true. And I think one of the things that has to be emphasized is that one has to now, though, look at more than one channel. So you can then make an educated decision as opposed to what you're watching and who you're watching, making that decision for you. And I think that's another piece of these quote unquote new rules is we have to be active participants as the receiver of the information to do our homework in order for us to make more educated decisions. And I mean educated decisions. It can be about politics. It can be about how you run your business. It can be whatever it is, whatever the topic is.
There's also a trap on the other side of this. Instead of saying to people, hey, you should be utilizing podcasting in all its glory effectively, you have the other side of the coin where people jump into it unprepared or ill-advised, and they don't see an ROI. They don't get anything out of it. And then they come into it thinking that they're more entertaining than they really are. They think that people are going to tune in just because they're going to be the next this one or that one. And it's possible to get an outcome and an effect, but not just because you think you're funny in your circle of friends. And that's going to be enough to sustain something when you don't even have a knowledge of an outcome that you want from this. You just want a bunch of downloads, or you want a lot of people to tune in. So you think you can, I don't know, make a boatload of money. And now this is Braxton's world.
Yeah.
Right, Braxton, I mean, you're the viral king here. What am I talking about?
No, I think you got it on the head. That's the biggest thing. And I see it all the time with my clients that I work with is like, I literally just read a story on Reddit, I think a couple days ago, where this founder was talking about his partner who was in charge of marketing and taking over things. And this partner's whole strategy for the business to promote everything for the business was, oh, let's just post some stuff. And like that was literally some stuff. Let's put no idea what the stuff was, no plan on what, no idea on like the format, the delivery, nothing. And you're right, you can't go into it half cocked. You got to at least understand who you're trying to reach, who you're trying to attract, what the message is, what's going to resonate with them. If you just go out and try and post stuff, it's not going to work very well for you. And that's a big problem because, like Josh is saying, you see it with podcasts. I see it with social media all the time. People just think posting for the sake of posting is going to do something for them because they hear so many gurus online saying, well, just be consistent or just post 3 times a day or post it this time and that time. None of that matters. You have
Braxton,
to have
you are so on point.
You have some sense.
Yeah.
Some sense of it.
And I guess the second mistake would, oh, go ahead, Vic.
I said, what's analogous to that in real life is also in-person networking. The same thing applies because people like, well, I went to this networking event and I just didn't get anything out of it. Well, of course you didn't get anything out of it because one, that's not even the right attitude. Okay. What was the reason you went? What was the demographic that you felt was going to be there? Who are you looking for? Be intentional, have a plan, dress right, play right. If you're going to a baseball game and it's a networking thing in a box, you know what you're going to look like. If you're going to a Hyatt, if you're going to the Plaza Hotel, it's a networking event, you know what you need to look like. All of these things play into what you get out of something. So I think it's analogous. And back to what you were saying earlier, Josh, is that this whole thing has to do with less of new and more retooling than it is brand new, I think.
Yeah. Last month, we brought a good amount of people, both of your network, to iHeart Studios in New York, and we spent a whole day there mapping this out. Braxton, I love the portion you ran because I had the benefit of, prior to that, interviewing you on the show, so getting to know your insight, but then watching you in front of the room at the whiteboard, just detailing out in workshop fashion what works and what doesn't. Vic, I've never seen this before. You came with printed. Who does that? Printed spiral
Thank you, Braxton,
notebook.
because I'm still in the printing business. That's good. Thanks.
Yeah. You handed out printed workbooks for every attendee, and you systematically, and I'm bringing this up because I loved how you started. You said, what are some of the things you hear all the time that the gurus tell us work and that you should do? And consistency is certainly one of them. And you're saying in and of itself, it doesn't work. Just being consistent, that doesn't lead to something.
I mean, the consistency is always good, right? In nature, in human life, like it's all good, right? But when it comes to social media marketing or marketing online in general, really, consistency for consistency's sake it's not doing anything. If you think posting 3 times a day just because a guru said to do that and do it for forever, if that's going to be effective, it might help, it might move the needle for you, but is it the most effective thing? Absolutely not. If you're not learning along the way, if you're not studying who's paying attention to what you're putting out to the world, if you're not analyzing how people respond when they swipe away from your content, all that type of stuff, you're not doing it with the right intention, because consistency by itself isn't going to move the needle for you that much. So it helps, but it's not everything.
Okay, so what helps? What should move the needle then, if not consistency?
So I've shared this with Josh before. This is the dirty secret right here. I can tell you the one thing that all the gurus and all the creators out there that have millions of followers and views and all that, I can tell you the one thing that they're not telling you that they know, but they don't want to spill the tea on. I'll spill the tea on it right now. When it comes to video content, which is kind of what my forte is, video content specifically, the way the algorithms work is it's looking at the percentage of people that watch your video all the way to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you reverse engineer that, you might wonder why that is. It's because the longer that someone watches a video, the longer they're on the platform, the more money the platform makes through ad revenue, right? And so you as a creator, whether you're a business owner or you're just have a hobby posting content, whatever it is, you're incentivized to keep people watching your content all the way to the end for as long as possible. Rinse and repeat as many videos as possible. Because when people do that, the platform will reward you because you're signaling to the platform that you're willingly playing in their sandbox.
Mm-hmm. So for every business owner, because we are focusing mostly on business owners, right, and entrepreneurs, leaders, I guess the first step would be to figure out their end goal, right, and then just make sure everybody watches their videos till the end. Is that it?
Figure out who your audience is, because this varies. Yeah, figure out who your audience is and what resonates with them. And there's a simple way that you can figure out what topics or what types of content resonates with your audience. Do a search on whatever your platform of choice is. Let's say Instagram. Do a search on a topic you would like to be known for, and then see how popular the videos are that show up in the search results. If they're getting 100 views a pop, then maybe it's not that popular of a topic. But if we're getting hundreds of thousands or millions of views, that tells you that's a popular topic on that platform. And if you want to be known for that topic, then that tells you that's a good topic to kind of lean into in your content. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But is it enough to have, let's say, if we are a small business, right, and we want to get more clients through social media or through media in general, is it enough to do just the podcast or just social media? Or it should be a complementary marketing, just to touch as many souls as we can through all the channels as we can put our hands on?
I think there's a place for everything, but you got to start with one place that you master and then move on. But Josh, you're the podcasting guy. I don't know what you would say about that.
Well, if I heard the question correctly, it's social media is the place where you would distribute the content, which in this case is, let's call it a podcast. But I always take a step back and say, let's not get caught up on that word, because that word today means a lot of different things to a lot of different people narrowly. And it doesn't happen. Whenever I talk about it, I say, but let's expand what we're talking about, because it's content. It could be a video series, right? It could be a podcast series. It could be anything like that. It doesn't have to be what you think a podcast. I mean, the word has, it's really taking an evolution here. But so what I do is content creation in this format, and then use social media to distribute, and then use your marketing channels accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's like complementary. So let's say on social media you focus more on I don't know what business. Vic, let's come up with a business. What business are we talking about?
Let's say you want to focus on you're a law firm and you want to focus on a particular vertical. Okay, let's say you can say family law or personal, whatever it is, and you want to focus on that particular vertical. That's very specific, right?
Yeah. So social media can be about like tips and valuable insights, and podcasts can be talking through the cases, right?
Or examples of, right, exactly, examples of what one would have experienced. And that I think it rolls back to what you were saying earlier too, is storytelling, right? Is that whole I mean, we are all captivated by and respond to stories and the storytelling. And specifically, like you're saying, in the advertising world, you sit down with a client and you say, okay, we're going to put together a marketing and advertising strategy. Okay, right. And it might be billboard, radio. It might be screens in movie theaters. It might be billboards on the sides of buses. It could be, it can be a whole litany of things depending on, like you were saying, Braxton, target market, who you're trying to reach, what you're trying to sell. Are you trying to build a brand, or are you actually trying to sell an item, right? Some of it's just branding, right? It's just, I want you to notice my logo. Somewhere down the line, you're going to actually buy something from me, but that's not what I'm doing right now. I want you to know that I'm alive, so I'm going to do branding right now, right? No call to action, just branding. So it's things you have to think through. Obviously, the big guys think through it pretty heavily. But if you use the same strategies, even for your small world, I think that there could be, massive, outcomes for that if you're paying attention. And like you both were saying, being organized and come up with a strategy and then execute the strategy. And Braxton, like you said, pay attention as you're going along, because what you think might work might not. Okay. And what you think's not going to work might. So you got to pay attention.
Mm-hmm. I have a pro tip on the whole, like, D, you mentioned, posting tips on social media and stuff. I'm a big proponent of not posting tips. For those listening, the way I like to frame it is don't post how to do something. Don't post even the what in how to do something. The way that people are differentiating themselves and finding success on social media is to post why something matters. And that's just a tiny shift, but posting tips kind of puts you in a category with everyone else that's posting tips.
Could you give an example of that? I want to put you on the spot. Could you give an example of that, Braxton?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I'm just sitting here, so I used to do executive coaching more. I had a business doing that a while back. And so maybe I might post a tip on how to a strategy on how to DM people the right way on LinkedIn, for example, right? Maybe there's a tip and I would provide a template or an explainer on that, right? Instead of posting something like that, talk about why it matters. And so if you can't answer the question and why it matters and have it be compelling, then maybe that's a sign you should be posting something different anyway. But assuming that's a good idea, to post something why it matters. Like, why would it matter that I DM someone on LinkedIn? Well, it's Vic, this is your world. Maybe it's another networking opportunity. Maybe it's I get to meet someone new. Maybe this could be, right? Talk about why it matters. And so what I do now in social media, you'll notice I don't really post tips about actual social media marketing that much in terms of what to do. I talk about why it matters. And so if I were to talk about that whole idea with completion rate, for example, I wouldn't give the steps on how to have a high completion rate because that's way too open-ended. I would talk about why it matters. Why does it matter? You'll get more attention. You'll develop more partnerships. You'll develop more opportunities to get in front of the right eyeballs, all that type of stuff. That's why
far more compelling. Yeah. And far more compelling, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and it still gives your expertise, shows your expertise, and maybe even in more meaningful way, not just explaining the tools. I like that.
And what I'm hearing, Braxton, is that this now puts the onus and the responsibility back into the person's hands, Victor, that we were saying may be looking for an excuse not to do this, because now, Braxton, to figure out why it matters, we have to use this. We have to use our brain cells. Oh, who has time? I don't know. I can't think of that. Let me just give this tip. Let me just give this tip. I know it. It's easier. Right. No, it makes so much sense why we resist, why there's a block, why we have conversations like this in the first place, because there is work involved. You have to put in a little bit of that E word, some effort in order to get a result. So to say why it matters, you have to come up with good, compelling copy and talking points, ... That might not come so easy. No, but I can just give this quick tip because it works for me. But I see how that might not land. It correlates with what I'm saying about don't talk about what you're building, talk about what you're believing, what your beliefs are. This is the core of everything I teach. What is your core message, which stems from that overriding belief in how you see the world, which, funny enough, winds up saying nothing about what you do in your business. But miraculously, it serves it completely. And those are the dots I try to connect.
Yeah, and that's
so cool.
Again, it's you're right, and it's so analogous again to personal interactions. When you sit down with somebody and you say, automatically you start, spewing at them like they're drinking from a fire hose, all the things about you and all of your features and benefits and things like that, and they're like,
No
wait a minute, I don't even know who the hell you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And let's talk about getting to know each other. Let's talk about, hey, you have any children? Where do you live? What things you like to do? And you may have an entire meeting for the first time and not even talk about the business part of it.
And you're bought into the other person immediately.
Exactly. And now you're building a relationship that down the road will be something that potentially can be monetized. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that's, again, analogous to this is that we're expecting to not have to build the relationship. We're just expecting an outcome, right? That's not going to work. And if it does work, it is so fleeting and it's so transactional that you're always looking for the next gig. You're not selling something again to someone. You're selling something to someone else because that person ain't coming back. And that's the other piece of this that for me is so fascinating, how it all ties together. And why all of us as marketing communication professionals have to understand that it's a Swiss Army knife. It's not a cleaver. Okay. There are lots of things in here. Okay. For different purposes and for different uses, as opposed to, well, I got a cleaver. And then if I can't chop it in half, I can't do it. That I think is something that we all have to start to really look at. And that may be one of the new things, because I think a lot of people weren't thinking three-dimensionally. They were thinking one-dimensionally in many cases. That's my assessment.
I have a comment from Stan Robinson. He says, we all relate to stories. They're one of the best ways to engage your audience and make your point. And I got a question about stories here. Braxton and Josh, maybe when you work with clients, you see that there is let's say a line of the podcast, or like the format of the podcast or the format of the videos work better than others related to like storytelling.
Josh?
Well, sure. It is. Stan is absolutely correct. It is about storytelling. And that goes back to the learning how to emotionally connect with your audience. I practice what I preach. And just for a quick second, Victor, what you were talking about, all of this ultimately takes practice. In my world, when we arrive at your core message, your belief, your talking points, and your stories around all of it, so that you can become effective on the mic, takes practice. Do you know how many times? So I always focus on the opening of a podcast, those first 60 to 90 seconds when the host introduces you as a guest and will say something to the effect of, welcome to the show. So tell us about yourself. It's a terrible question, but a lot of hosts do it. And you as a guest need to be prepared with how you're going to answer it. The trap is thinking that, oh, I'll just talk about my business, what I do, and go from there. I've spent so much time working and rehearsing and practicing my opening so that it feels ultimately natural, but it is deliberate. And I start with a story. Often I'll open with a hook, which is, I got bit by the acting bug in 8th grade. Now I'm off and running, right? I'm not talking about who I am, what I sell, what I offer, who I serve. Now I'm talking about something that in those first 30, 60, 90 seconds, you're going to be grinning. You're going to be getting me. Even if you never pursued acting like I had and never struggled with certain insecurities, which I know we all have, but even if you don't have the exact story and life experience that I have, you have your version of it. And that's what's important. You see yourself in parts of my story, and you say, oh my God, me too. I get that. As a child, I had something similar. Oh yeah, I did that as an adult. Wow, that's amazing. Let me lean in a little more. So stories are inevitable for success.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
I was just sitting here
Braxton?
thinking, I was just sitting here thinking easily my top performing Instagram videos are the ones that have a very compelling story. And the story is the highlight of the whole video for sure. So for me, I'm often telling stories of other business owners and their successes or something like that. So it's very important. In terms of the format, any format can work. What I find it's how you're grabbing people's attention, right? So Josh talked about the hook. That's incredibly important. I'm a big fan of David Ogilvy, who was like the godfather of advertising, I don't know, many decades ago. And he said,
Ogilvy and Mather, yeah.
And he said, when it comes to your headline, he's talking about traditional advertising in this context, but he said, when you've written your headline, you've spent 80% of your marketing dollar, right? That's how important the hook is when it comes to podcast, video, whatever. So getting people's attention, in my case, like with video, in the first 3 to 4 seconds, that's critical because it's in those first 3 to 4 seconds that people are swiping away on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. Being able to do that is really, really important. The format doesn't matter so much. It does, but it doesn't matter in those first 4 seconds as much as it is grasping people's attention and holding their eye in some way. So there's that. If you want to do that, what I find works, there's 3 things that you got to do really well. And the better you do this in the first few seconds of a video, or perhaps even in a podcast, the better you tend to hold attention. So those 3 things are, you need an emotional trigger in some way. You got to have an emotional angle to whatever it is that you're doing. Josh kind of touched on that. You want to have a curiosity gap in some way. So it's like, what's happening? There has to be a question that you you drill into the person's brain within the first few seconds. So emotional trigger, curiosity gap. And I just find saying something really ridiculous that sounds like a tabloid headline works really well too. It's a great lesson to be like scrolling through anything, even podcasts or clips of podcasts or Instagram Reels, TikTok, whatever. It's incredible to be scrolling through, and once you're understand this concept, the emotional hook, the curiosity gap, all this kind of stuff, you start to see it everywhere. You see it in advertising when you're watching Netflix or Hulu or something like that. You see it in content everywhere. You see it everywhere. And
once you notice it, right?
Right. Yeah.
You're right.
And it becomes almost like I view it as a masterclass. Just sit down and spend 10 minutes not wanting to be entertained, but analyzing the content that you're consuming. And when you see videos that are doing, millions of views or something like that, look at what the reason might be. And I would really bet that in the first 4 seconds, there's all those 3 things, and they're doing something throughout the video as well to continue to earn attention from the viewer. And once you start recognizing that, it's really easy to replicate, whether it's the format, the delivery, whatever it is.
The YouTube ads, I deliberately don't want to pay for YouTube Premium to remove the ads because I love them so much. I because like you said, once you know the template and the hook and the gap and the story, and you can anticipate and you hear it, you say, wow. So I watch the ads and I'm like, great
That's
hook.
the best class. I mean, I'm not a
Yeah.
big football fan, but I watch the Super Bowl because I want to see the commercials.
And then you're analyzing the structure, everything to borrow from it. One of my first acting teachers told us it's okay to steal, just steal from the best. And what she was talking about was learn, use, and everybody does, right? How do you learn from someone? How do you see what they're doing? I know we're all Gary V friends and fans here. He's for years, who doesn't use everything he's doing? I am watching closely to say, wow, that is amazing. Now, how can I take my version of what he just did or said or used or had or delivered and make it my own? Got to do it all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have a question for you guys. If we're talking about a personal brand, let's say an owner or the founder of the company, right? And they have their personal social media or their personal media something, right? Media platform. And there is a business platform. Should they be separate? Should it should there be two platforms separately for business owner and separately for the business, or should it be one? And how would you let's say separate or put them together or inline them? Because if we're talking about lead generation, people always want more money, more clients, right? If they have a business. So does it make sense to, let's say, focus more on personal brand to get more leads, or will it make sense to focus more on the business media?
Braxton,
Complicated question, no?
This is your environment. Yes.
Yeah, I would say I'm not going to come out and say one's better than the other in terms of like, do you run with the personal brand or your company brand or both? I'm not going to say one's better than the other, but here's some things to consider. What has been devoid on social media as the years have gone on is authenticity. And I think that's another element that you see in a lot of content, podcast, video, doesn't matter, is the more authentic the subject, the person in the video comes off as, that lends to it performing better. That lends to that person building a brand. And so if you can be authentic as a company, be genuine and not be so like sterile, I think that could work. But I find people love connecting with people. That's why most people don't know. Josh used the example of Gary V. Most people don't know half the businesses Gary Vaynerchuk has and all the different brands he has under VaynerX, right? Most people don't know half of them. It's because Gary's the face of the company. Gary is the brand, right? And I think there's something to be said for that. So I'm a big proponent personally. If you were to look me up, you're going to find both my company and me all under like one brand, and it's my personal brand for sure. But that's just me. As companies grow, as companies get bigger, it might make sense for the founder and the company to be branded separately, right? But maybe it doesn't have to.
You're talking about authenticity, and there's something humorous and ironic and a trend here I've noticed. Have you guys seen this trend where I see it particularly in YouTube ads? The ad will be a 30 or 60-second clip of somebody on a podcast because they're using that visual environment to suggest authenticity. Now, I say it's ironic and humorous because I sometimes doubt whether or not it's actually a real podcast that they clipped this from, or they sat down to create the ad.
Created for that particular purpose.
Yeah, right, staged it for that. But the idea is still there that we are living in a time where the podcast environment, when you're behind a mic with headphones and you have the traditional podcast setup, there's something to be said there about, I don't know, being more trustworthy or authentic. And that's what they're going for.
I have a question because it's so timely for what you just said, Josh. How do you guys, and this is to both Josh and Braxton, how do you feel about the how AI is creeping into the authenticity and or genuineness of communication as it continues to get better, as it relates to podcasting, as it relates to communicating, because some of this stuff looks so good, you can't even figure out whether or not that somebody was actually on that podcast, was not on that podcast, or how do you both feel about that? Because we're all real people now doing this. All four of us are, we're here, we're sitting here, we're having a conversation. But you know what? In not too short order, that wouldn't necessarily be required.
Yeah, there is an app. It was launched like a few days ago. I want to see how it's called. Something Cartesia Sonic, Cartesia Sonic 3, something like that. And it can actually have 50 or 50 plus emotions in your voice. So the voice is not like plain anymore. It can be actually with like loving, warm, furious, etc. So it is interesting.
I'm just curious as what you guys think about it, because it's coming,
A lot of people like hate when I say this, so this is my take on it. I really see AI right now. It's absolutely useful. There's absolutely an application for a lot of different, like, it's gotten already too broad to try and put it in a box, right? But at a high level view, in a general sense, I think what we're experiencing AI right now is kind of the .com bubble all over again.
Okay.
Meaning, like, I remember when like ChatGPT hit the market, and within 2 days, people are putting out ebooks or selling things about how to master ChatGPT, right? And it's like, it's been out for 2 days. Are you kidding? Come on. And I see that a lot with AI. Like every day, something new is being innovated on when it comes to that. Again, it's absolutely useful, but I think we're in this wild west period with AI where, like, I see people putting out all their Sora 2 videos, and they're great. The image quality in it is great, the motion and all that, but it's still got some room for improvement before it looks 100% realistic, right? And here's people talking about like, oh, this is going to build my business and this is going to make me differentiate me.
False.
Everyone's already doing it. Everyone's already doing it. So I think it has an application, but I think what's going to happen in the next few years is 75% of what we see AI as right now is going to be like develop this perception that it's not necessary or needed, just like what happened with the .com bubble. And then we thought it was going to go this one way, and then it didn't. And the people that invested too heavily in it ended up being very disappointed. I think that's going to happen again. And then what rises out of that is the useful elements of it that actually will help your business more.
It's not a replacement for anything that we're talking about today. Yeah. How to tell good stories, how to connect emotionally, how to develop your personal brand in and around your business so it effectively serves your business. AI, completely agree, Braxton. Very, very useful for a variety of things, but not to replace what we're talking about here. If you want to get a head start, do what we're talking about and utilize AI, but don't use AI to do what we're talking about fundamentally, that only the human, like going back to Gary as an example, it's him. He's the face, he's the brand. You can bet that he and his team are utilizing AI consistently on a massive level, but not to replace him and everything he's doing. And that's what we need to come to the table, continuing to do. That's how you get a head start, and that's how you win in the new rules of visibility.
What I love about our conversation is that you guys, like every one of you, have obviously different experience. And like, if we're talking about like putting together marketing strategy, you complement each other, from different angles. And I guess that's what iHeart event is about. That's going like when is next event is happening?
We were looking at January, correct?
That is correct. It's locked in. Braxton already bought his. Braxton last week texted me and said, look, don't change the date. It's 2 days, right? We've been doing them 1 day, but because of Braxton's participation, exclusively and deliberately because of Braxton's participation last time, we just didn't have enough Braxton. And after that, I remember we were
never get enough Braxton. I've learned that. You
can't. And you know what, Victor? It creeps up on you because you don't come to the table thinking, hey, I'm not going to be able to get enough of this Braxton. You need some Braxton to realize you can't get enough Braxton. Then you realize, oh my God, I can't get enough of this guy.
Braxton, you're salt and pepper, brother. Okay.
So because we couldn't get enough Braxton, I said we had you for this, your portion of the iHeart Day. By the way, it's January 13th and 14th in the Big Apple in New York City. You come, you spend time. We're going to do a lot of great things, including a 4-hour workshop with Braxton, helping you. I'm sure he's going to have a printout, right? So everybody gets a binder. But then you learn everything that Braxton's doing, how to outline all of your content. Then we have a great sit down lunch around the corner, which is fantastic, continuing the networking. And then we go back into iHeart. You get all the photo ops. I mean, it's a handful of floors. It was gorgeous, right? You guys saw all the floors.
It's a great day in the city and a deep dive into learning about a lot of different facets about the communication and the social media and how to actually get your arms around this monster that we call social media,
And what's magnificent about it is that unlike your traditional, let's say, conference where you receive all of the information from the speakers and then you're sent on your way home hoping that you can implement it, during these 2 days after you go through all this, it ends with in the studio, we're in the radio station, on the mic with me, one-on-one interview, applying and implementing what you just spent the last day and a half learning and doing. Now you get a walk away, you get a tangible deliverable, which is this recorded short form podcast episode with me. We produce it, it goes out, but then it also is broadcast on New York radio to that market, which is not insignificant.
Right.
Yeah. Pretty incredible.
Braxton, what were your guests saying? What was the feedback after the event?
Yeah, frankly, the common piece of feedback we got was that they would pay twice as much as they did for the opportunity, which was, I was really flattered to hear that. That means there's value there, right? But to be in the Big Apple, to get that exposure, to rub shoulders with people inside iHeart, and then get that exposure and that distribution was really great. Other feedback, being able to rub shoulders with Josh and get one of the great things that I loved hearing time after time with every person that came was that Josh can really pull the best out of people in that interview, which is incredible. He's a stellar interviewer when it comes to that format. So it was pretty incredible to hear that. Those are the top things that come to mind, is just hearing that it was super valuable, it was super useful, and people walked away having something actionable to do for their business when they got home.
We've held this event before, and last month, the three of us partnered to do it. Now it worked so well, right? We're doing it January 13th and 14th. That's when Braxton texted me and said, look, don't change the date. I already booked my flight and hotel. So Good. It is locked in for those dates. And, we've all run events, held events, gone to events, but I love this one because all the pieces are there where you really don't get access like this every day. And that's what I love, bringing good people together to the table, opening up and just delivering this. It's not only so valuable, it's kind of fun, which I know we all like, adding a level of fun to the table.
That I think is the one of the crucial pieces. And the other piece that I would want to weigh in on that too is the idea of forming, as the more we do these, we're forming a community. Okay. We're forming a unique community, and that community, will be incumbent upon us to help unify that community, help them interlock with each other, network with each other, and then amplify that community. And I think that's a huge piece of this, which is almost an undercurrent, because that's not necessarily a visible deliverable for the day, right?
Wow. Yeah.
That's an after, right? And now we've have cohorts, right? And you keep doing these, and now we've done a few, right? We start to put those together, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Not only are they like-minded individuals, but there are people there that you can be networking with. You can start building those relationships, and you're like, I didn't expect to get all of this for what I paid. This is crazy. You know? So that's another piece that we have to make sure that we're, you know.
And that's your strength. That's where
that's
you
the part that's the part I want to own. Right. Exactly.
The networking, the community. That's what works so well with this is we all have our lane that we do so well. We work well together. We bring people through. The agenda and the day is there, and we're off and running. January 13th and 14th in New York City.
So this is going to be awesome. And it's going to, we want to make sure that since we're talking about it, limited space.
That's right.
We specifically keep it limited so you can have a real deep dive experience, and you have the kind of access, can ask the questions, can have that time in order to interact, because when you get into voluminous groups, that goes away.
What's that big word you used, Victor? What is that big word? Voluminous.
That big word means freaking big.
Voluminous. Voluminous groups. You're just a dictionary today. I'm like, come on. I'm not ready for this.
You know what, Josh? I blame that on my mother. Okay, she was a reading therapist, so you know.
Yeah. Well, my brain just skipped it. So
I know. I'm like, let me look up. VIVEVU.
Yeah, so for everyone who is listening to us or watching us, if you want to participate in this VIP iHeart experience in New York City, please reach out to Victor, to me, to Braxton, or to Josh. We will have the links and the emails in the captions, depends on the platform you're using. And yeah, let's meet in January. And ironically enough, we have a very nice comment from Stan, and he says, one key will be figuring out how to use AI to free us to spend more time building relationships with humans. And it actually what we are going to do in January, build relationships.
For sure.
Perfect.
While mastering media.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So, Vic, what is one takeaway from this conversation? What is
I get multiple takeaways whenever I have conversations with Josh and Braxton, and you know, get the band together, so to speak. But really, my takeaway is that we are moving down a continuum of having to understand why everything we do has an effect. How we show up, what we do, how we're trying to move our businesses forward, move relationships forward. And that is for me, if I had to say use this new rules of visibility, that is ubiquitous. It's a part of everything we do. And that is probably the most important piece that I get out of these kinds of conversations. It just reinforces it for me that we have to suit up for the game, boys and girls, and there ain't nothing male about it. Okay, you got to actually get in the game. So that's one of the biggest things I get out of it.
That is perfect. If I could tack on to that, because I was already thinking, it's about that. You as a leader, as an executive in some role with a responsibility, like you said, Vic, you have to suit up. You know what needs to be done. You know how it needs to be done. You just need to connect the dots and work with someone who can help you get it done. So you have to put in the work and know that, okay, it's got to be. I'm not going to shy away from it. I'm not going to take the easy way out here, and just, you got to get it done. I love that, Vic. Suit up and get it done, because it's here, and you should be using these methods and outlines to succeed.
Braxton, what do you want people to take from this conversation?
I think the way that I operate in my business and my content and everything, there's one word that I kind of ascribe to, and that's remarkable. I think what we're really talking about here is how do you be remarkable with these new rules of media, right? And that's also what we're going to talk about in New York on January 13th and 14th is let's help each other understand and become more remarkable in our businesses.
See, you can't get enough Braxton. I told you.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone. Thank you, Stan, for your comments. Thank you everyone who is listening to us on other platforms. We truly appreciate your likes. Thank you for subscribing. And if you have any questions for Josh or Braxton, please reach out. And they are always open. And Vic, of course, they're always open to to talk about things, especially when it comes to media. So I'll see everyone next time.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.